Hey Bible readers, I'm Tara Lee Cobble, and I'm your host for the Bible Recap. John the Baptist has been in prison since approximately the start of Jesus' ministry. Herod Antipas arrested him after he rebuked Herod for marrying his brother's wife, who is named Herodias, because she's actually the granddaughter of King Herod the Great, which means both of her husbands are also her uncles. Okay. She wants JTB dead, but Herod is torn. When Herod's birthday party rolls around, the daughter of Herodias does a little dance for him as a part of the event, but in ancient Greco-Roman culture, the dances done at these parties tended to be more on the seductive side, if you catch my drift, so it's super inappropriate that Herod's stepdaughter/great-niece is the entertainment. Herod loves it, of course, and makes the grand gesture of offering her anything she wants. It seems likely that Herodias was using her daughter as a pawn in order to achieve this very outcome. Herodias tells her daughter, "Hey, I know you had your heart set on a pony, but hear me out. How's about you ask for the head of a prisoner instead?" Can you imagine? So because of the sins of the king and the selfish plotting of his wife, John the Baptist is beheaded in prison. He dies an unjust death, the very one Jesus hinted at not long ago when JTB sent him a message asking if he really was the Messiah. After Herod kills JTB, he starts getting word of all the miraculous things Jesus is doing, and he's super confused because he sees a lot of similarities in these two guys. He's left wondering if Jesus is the ghost or the resurrection of JTB because of how their ministries run along the same trajectory. Some people even suggest that Jesus is the resurrected Elijah because of the types of miracles he's performing. When Jesus gets word of JTB's death, he and the disciples head off in a boat to be alone. I imagine he wants to grieve and talk to the Father about everything that's happening, but all the people see them out on the water and run to meet him when he docks. Scripture records 5,000 men, but there were also women and children to account for. They're probably there for a variety of reasons. Some probably just want healing, and others have likely heard about what happened to JTB. And maybe their first thought is to go to Jesus, maybe offering condolences, or maybe they want to know, what's the plan for moving forward now that one of the leaders of our new kingdom has been executed? For them, this must have been kind of like a presidential assassination. Rome had just killed one of their Jewish leaders. I don't know what Jesus was thinking or feeling in this moment, but if I were him, I would feel emotionally exhausted. He just got the news of the unjust death of the man who was his forerunner, whose entire life was dedicated to preparing the way for him and pointing people toward him. And in the not too distant future, the same government responsible for that will play a role in his own death. And on top of that, 15,000 people want something from him. Despite all that, he leans in. He doesn't send the crowd home as his disciples suggest. Instead, he tells his disciples to do something impossible: feed them. Then, as they begin to take the steps of obedience, they see that he is actually the one doing the feeding. He does the miraculous in the face of the impossible. Jesus gives thanks to God the Father for the food, then breaks it and gives it out. And suddenly, there are 12 baskets of food left over when it's all said and done. I love that Jesus arranges a to-go box for each of the apostles. It's not like he can't make more, but maybe he's thrifty. These leftovers not only serve as evidence of his power, but they also serve a practical purpose, to feed them on their journey. This whole story shows that Jesus isn't just concerned with spiritual provision, but practical provision too. Then, Jesus wants more time alone to pray, so he sends the disciples on ahead by themselves. This seems to be another account where he's growing their faith. Last time they were in the boat together, they almost died in a storm that he calmed. And since then, he's given them authority and power over some things. Will they walk in that power, or will they be afraid? Another storm hits, and they're struggling. It's about 3 a.m., and Jesus can see them from the spot where he's praying, so he decides to pull a fast one on them. I bet he loved this miracle. It's not a weighty miracle like a resurrection. To me, it just sounds like fun. But then again, I'm the person who makes awkward jokes at a funeral because it's how I cope, so maybe that's why I think Jesus just needed to have some lighthearted fun in the midst of everything being so heavy. While the wind is giving them a 1-2 punch, Jesus strolls past their boat, walking on water, then looks back over his shoulder at them like, "Oh, hey guys, I didn't see you there. I was just out for a stroll. Need some help with this wind?" Up until the moment when they realize it's him, they're terrified. I would be too. Even after he pulls the reveal on them, they still seem kind of uncertain. Peter, being the testosterone-laden teen that he is, decides he wants a turn at water levitation. So he says, if it's really you, invite me out there. And Jesus does. Peter's probably thrilled about it, but it turns out that the moment he begins to pay more attention to the scary things around him than to the God who is sovereign over those things, his fears begin to overtake him. This is the second time he's been caught in a storm with Jesus and seen Jesus demonstrate authority over nature, but Peter's faith is still fragile. Jesus rescues him, they get in the boat, and immediately the wind stops. Then the apostles acknowledge that he is certainly the Son of God. When they land in Gennesaret, they're swarmed by people in need of healing, and Jesus heals them. And one thing I find interesting about this passage is that this appears to have happened after Jesus gave the apostles the authority to heal. But Scripture indicates that he's the one who does all the healing here. I don't have any conclusions about that, I just thought it was interesting. By the way, the place where they docked their boat and healed people, Gennesaret, it's called Gennesaret today. And in 1986, when there hadn't been much rain and the waters had receded from the shoreline, two brothers walking along the beach discovered a nail in the mud that turned out to be part of a complete first-century fishing boat, intact. No one knows for sure if Jesus ever sailed in this boat, but if not, he certainly sailed in boats like it. Check the description box for a link to pictures if you want to get a visual for this. On our trips to Israel, I always stop at the Jesus Boat Museum in Gennesaret because seeing it in person really helps you imagine how vulnerable you'd feel if you were in this boat during a storm. My God shot today was in that boat, in the storm, in the middle of the night. For the disciples, the storm itself is bad enough. The storm plus being sleep-deprived and emotionally exhausting from serving people and mourning the death of John the Baptist is worse. So they're tired, they're sad, and now their lives are in danger. Just when they think things can't get worse, they see a ghost coming toward them. Put yourself in their shoes for a minute. This is terrifying. But what they perceive as tragic or terrifying was actually God moving in their lives, to show them he's with them, to show them he's powerful, and for a moment, maybe to bring them some joy. Peter especially got to experience that part. Even in our storms in the middle of the night, he's where the joy is.
We've heard from several of you who say you want to help financially support the Bible Recap, but that you aren't interested in getting the perks that come from being a recaptain. If that's you, thank you. That's incredibly generous of you. And so on behalf of me and all our team and every single person who watches or listens or reads every day, thank you. You are part of what helps TBR keep coming to everyone on a daily basis. So if you want to do that, here's how you do that. Just click on the contact link on our website, thebiblerecap.com. It's going to walk you through the whole process. We'll also put a direct link in today's description box. On that same page of our website, there's a place where you can send us snail mail if that's your preference. So if you want to reach out that way, again, thebiblerecap.com/contact or click the link in the description box.